So, welcome to our webinar for today. Today, we shall be looking at entities, and at Honor, our mission is where need is greatest, we use data to transform lives. And our objectives today will be defining the entities feature and what it entails, application of the entities feature in our daily work, the benefits of entities, and how entities work on the Honor data platform. So we shall start off by defining entities. And an entity is an item managed by an ODK workflow, and they are created from form submissions, which are received in a form that has entity definitions. We shall see how this looks when we look at the forms. And entities can represent physical things, such as towns or plants, and also abstract things such as household visits or facility follow-ups. So you can use entities to define any of the items or like patterns depending on the project that you're running. And entities of the same type, they are generated by the same entity definition in a form and are organized into entity lists, which can also be referred to as data sets. So let us look at the application of entities. Some of the benefits of the entities feature is that you can automatically create an entity list with a registration form. So for example, an entity list can have entities such as the name of a town and the province where it is located in. And then you have the number of relief food offices present. So you can be running a project that is monitoring the relief food offices that are present in a certain location. And you can use an entity list to define some of these properties, such as the name of a town and the province. Then you link this now with the relief offices that are present in these locations. Then you can use multiple registration forms that are different but target the same entity list. So for instance, you have a form for a college registration versus a student coursework registration form. So these are forms that you can interlink based on the coursework that the student is registering and the college that they have registered at. So you can use entities to run that. Then you can apply entities in one or more downstream forms within the same project. So you can have one project and then you can have entities, and the entity list can be referencing several forms that are within the same project. Then you can be able to download entities as a CSV file. So some of the examples where entities apply would be a project that is monitoring the availability of drinking water in various communities within a region. So you could have a project where water points or boreholes or water facilities have been constructed in various locations in communities. And so you use entities just to monitor how is this project going? Is the water still available? Is it beneficial to the community? Is there any development that is required or any repairs? So you can use entities to follow up on that. Then you can also apply entities in irrigation schemes setup that could be set up in several villages. And this could include building of dams or setting up irrigation structures. So for example, you could have probably something like the Ministry of Agriculture that is monitoring irrigation schemes in various villages or communities. So you can use entities just to follow this project up to confirm if it is beneficial to the community. You can have a project that is monitoring the disbursement of vaccines in health facilities, just monitoring the stock and how the vaccines are being disbursed. Birth of children in different facilities, you can also be able to monitor this. Tracking and monitoring the growth of trees. And also you can use entities in monitoring carbon emission levels over time in various locations. So these are just a few examples where entities would apply and help you in your work. So how entities work and how they are created. So you have a registration form, which is the first point from where entities are created. And once a form receives submissions, that is when the entities are created. So in our example, in our pictorial example here, we have the water points get registered using a form. So it could be a project that is monitoring water points in a village. So the points get registered via a form. So when it receives submissions, when we are registering this water point, that's when the entities are created. And when they are created, they create this entity list, which now stores this data, which would include the water point name and the capacity of this water point. And these properties are what form the entities and create now that entity list. So this entity list is now used by other forms, which include the follow-up form, where now you're running a follow-up on the functionality of this water point and monitoring it over time. So this is an example of how the application of entities would run from start to end. So you'd have a registration form that is capturing everything. Then now moving forward as the project is going, you're able to capture this data and follow up on some of these details. So we have the XLS forms now, which are used in entities, and we have a form that creates entities and one that utilizes entities. So for our use case in this presentation, we're going to look at a project that monitors the growth of trees for a project on climate change. So we will start with a form that creates entities. So this is the registration form that creates the entities. And from here, you can be able to see, let me just zoom in a bit for visibility. So the XLS form is a standard form, just like any other XLS form that we create, which will have the type, name, and label columns, and you'll have your questions defined there, and any of the relevant or choice filters that you would want to define. So our form here is picking the registration details of the tree, which would include the ID of the tree, the height and the circumference, the species, the health status of the tree. One thing particularly with this form is an additional column, which is called the Save To column. And this is where you save the entity properties that are going to be defined in our entity list. So for example, we have picked the province, the district, the ID of the tree, species, the height, and the circumference. So these are the entity properties that we want to save in our entities. So this is a special additional column that must be included in the XLS form that is creating entities. The second important element to note is the additional worksheet, which is called the entities worksheet. And this is the one that now defines the name of our entity list and the label that is going to be used to reference the entities properties that have been created. So our entity list is going to be called trees. This is how we've named it. And this tree ID is the particular variable that I have chosen to reference our entity properties. And this is how the form for building or creating XLS form is supposed to be authored. The particular property, as I mentioned, the feature is the Save To column and the additional entities worksheet. So you can give your entity list any name, and the label, you must be clear on the variable that you want to use to define. So for us, I have used this tree ID. So what I mean is I want the system to check the ID of the tree and now give me the details, because that is what it is going to use to update any information that I want to update on the entity list. That is the form that is creating entities. Then we go to the form that utilizes the entities. This is the follow-up form. So it is the normal standard XLS form authoring form standards, which has the type, the name, and the label column, and any additional columns that you would want to use. Please note that this one does not have the entities worksheet. It does not need, because it is not creating entities. However, it will utilize the entities. So one thing that you need to take note of is the select one from file question type. This is where you reference our entity list that we created. When we were here, I named it trees. So in the owner data platform, it knows trees as the CSV file that has been created. So when I come here on the select one from file, I will use tree.csv, because this is the entity list I am utilizing to update the details in that form. So for example, if I reference the ID of a tree and it has been picked, it is going to check the entity list that was created. So select one from file trees.csv. This is a must. You must put the select one from file question type. So those are the two forms. So in my follow-up form, I am checking the date that I am coming again to check on the tree. I confirm the ID because it's going to already be created because I registered it here. When I was picking these details, I entered the ID of the tree. So the system already records it. So when I'm coming to the follow-up, it is going to pick it up. So mine is just to select and confirm which ID, which tree, or rather, I am looking at. And then I pick I record the height, the circumference of the tree, because this is a project that is running over time. And then I record any other details that I deem relevant. It could be the weather conditions. It could be if the tree has any diseases. So any information that you want just to capture as you move progressively with this project, this is the form that you use, because the entities are already created. So you use this to reference any other additional details that you would want. So let us look at how the forms work on Honor. So once you upload the above forms on Honor, you will notice an entity list created automatically when the registration form is updated. So I want us to just have a practical look at how these forms look when they're uploaded on the platform. So I will start with the registration form, which is the one that we are registering our trees. So this is the tree planting registration. So this is the form that I am going to use to register the trees. So I'm just starting the project. I've gone out to the field. I am recording these trees that have already been planted, and I'm capturing them. And maybe the project is aimed at, climate change. It could be anything that is related to just monitoring the growth of these trees. So let me see if I can put some records in. So I choose the province, I choose the district, and then I have the location. Then I give the ID of the tree. So you can add some hints here, which I've said, just check the tag on the tree trunk so that you can see that ID. So can record the height. Then if I can notice anything, any signs of pests or diseases, probably there are none. The root system is above. No, there's none. Then I can submit that. Give it another ID, another kind of species. Then maybe it has some mold. The root system is above. There's some yellowing. So you just capture any additional information that you would want to have. Then when I load the follow-up form, you will notice that the entities that we already created are already listed here in the choice options. So I don't need to come again or enter or go again through the tree. So I have gone back maybe after like 4 months, and now I'm checking the growth of this tree. So probably I've gone on another date and I'm on the tree that is 100. So when I specify this ID of this tree, I should be able to see these details, the species of the tree, and just confirm the previous height and the circumference. So even that when I'm recording, it can guide me in just knowing how far the tree has come and how it has been able to grow. Capture any additional details that you would want to capture, and I can record. And then so it is the data set that contains entities of the same type automatically. So when you look at the follow-up forms settings page, you should see the trees. Select one from file trees. So this one already automatically from the system links this CSV file to the follow-up form. So you don't need to come again to the media files and attach this file. So we have seen how these forms work. It can work both on ODK and Enketo. For demo purposes, I have just shown on Enketo so that we can be able to see how they work. And on ODK, it also works the same. It is the same concept. As you can see here from the screenshots, it's the same registration form where we start from the date and then you choose the province. So it will still create entities, which you'll come to your ONAData account and check on that. Once you make some submissions, and that is how in the registration form, that is how the entities are created. So as you register in this project on our demo, for every tree that you record or that you register, that is how the entities are created. So all the trees that you record with their IDs, you select the species, and you select the height and the circumference on the registration. These are the entities that are created. So when you load the follow-up form, you have seen that the entities that were created appear as choice options. So depending on, like where you are or the tree that you're looking at, the ID is what you confirm with on the tag. And then you're able just to update the height and the circumference of this particular tree. So the registration form, probably we can say runs as the first instance of the project. So you have 1,000 trees that have been planted in this particular area. So we run this registration form and capture all these 1,000 trees. So now after that, we now move over to the follow-up form, where now we come and update all the details and the records of these 1,000 trees over time. It could be a project that is running for 5 years, but we only registered once. So for the next 5 years, we run the follow-up form just to record how the tree is growing, how the health of the tree is, and if there are any harsh conditions, something like that. So if you have a project that is a health facility and you're capturing maybe the baths that have been done in that facility, you started off by registering all the facilities in this province or in this village. Now, over time, you're coming to each facility and recording the number of baths probably every month. So instead of coming again to register that facility, you just pick it up because it is an entity that was saved. Then you now record the number of baths that have been recorded. You can even record the genders of the children that were born, such details. So entities help you to just continue linking this data in real time without having to recreate forms each time. So we also have features on updating entities. And the form that updates entities in a specific entity list, you will need to add an entities worksheet and an entity ID column to specify the entity instance you want to update. So basically, when we talk about updating entities, is the variable that you want to define in the entity ID column should be the same as the data field used in the name column. So we have seen that we have a registration form that is creating entities. We have seen a follow-up form that is consuming those entities. So along the way, when the project is running, you would want to update entities. So for instance, like the health facilities one, and you're recording the baths. So probably along this project, you now want to record probably any children that did not make it or any deaths that were recorded for children. So this is an update that you're making to an entity, and this is possible. And in our example, we could update a feature related to the trees, and we could want to capture maybe a detail of the trees. Probably we want to capture like the flowers, or we want to capture like an image. And this is an added advantage because you don't need to stop the project to start and changing these things. You can always update and just add some of these details to the form itself. So for example, in our update form here, what you need to note is it is similar to a registration form in terms of the save to column and in terms of the entities worksheet, because here I want to update our trees with the flowers, because our project is running for 5 years, And maybe by the second year, our trees have started to produce flowers. So I want to update this and specify the flowers that are on these trees. So I will have an update form, which is related to these trees. And, I can ask something like select the type of flowers on the tree. And then I save this property called flower. When I come to the entities worksheet, my entity list we had already created before is trees. And the entity ID that I'm referencing is the tree ID. So this remain constant because I am referencing an already existing entity list. So I will have this saved too because I'm saving this. And this is the only thing that I am updating in my entity list. So I can, let me just download this and see if you can upload it. So this is the update form. So when I load this, as you can see, I'm still able to see the already existing entities. It does not create anything new. I'm just coming to add an additional property called flowers. So I have, I'm in the field, I've just come on this tree, there are noticeable flowers, and then I specify the kind of flowers on this tree. I can update that, and then I can update another one as well. And then I submit. Let's see. So when I come to the updated form, I should be able to see these additional details that I've been able to add, which is the flowers. So yeah, so for our example, this remains the same in the entities worksheet as we had in the registration form. The reason is I am using and referencing the same entity list. So it has to be the same so that it's able to pick the already created entities and use them to update. You also must have the select one from file, trees.csv, because this is the entity list that I am referring to. Our question was on flowers, which I have been able to add in the Save To column. Then once you upload and you load the form, you should be able to see the additional question as I have been able to demonstrate. So we have entities management. On the overview page of the registration form, you can see the submissions that have been made to the form, and this can be visualized on the table, charts, or map view. So when we come to the registration form, and we have map here, you can be able to see the points that were selected. From here, you can see we have this where my the hand thumbnail is and Khartoum. You can also come to the table view and see the entries that were able to be recorded. And when you come to charts, you can also be able to visualize your data depending on the kind of data that you want to visualize. The entity list, trying to see how it looks. I don't know why it's not showing here. Probably just allow me just to log in elsewhere and just check that. Let's see if we can be able to see that. I think there was a slight delay on that side. So I have the same forms on this side. So this is what I was talking about. When you load the registration form, this trees is our entity list as we defined it here in our entities worksheet. I named it trees. So once I upload it, I should be able to see it here and it loads automatically. And once you come to the table view, this is where you see the details. So these 245,167, these are the tree IDs, and these are the entities that were created. So what we are seeing here, these are entities. So I have the flower, I've already added that. We saw when I was updating it. You choose the province, then you have the tree ID, which is also the label that we are defining in the system. You have the species of the tree, the height, and the circumference. So this is also how you can be able to visualize an entity list. As shown here from the table view, you can be able to see the entities that were already created. You can also be able to download an entity list as a CSV file. And let me just demonstrate that. So when you come here, you can be able to see this on the table view. And when I come here to download the data set, it allows me to download this as a CSV file. And once I open this, I can be able to see this record. So you could want this for analysis. You could want this to export elsewhere, or you could want this to use in other apps just to see how these trees have been able to grow. And over time, you will have recordings of these trees over time and see maybe this tree started at this point. And you can see this from let me just show that. So when you come to the follow-up form, when you come to the table view, you will have normal submissions because I have visited this tree over time. So you can have the same tree having 10 entries. So that will help you once you export your data, just to be able to analyze or come to charts and be able to select a particular species or an ID and see over time how it has been able to grow and over time develop. Yes. And yeah, we have come to the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. Anyone with any questions, please feel free. I think we have a question here from Andrew. How can you cascade or select entity IDs when there are lots? When you select a particular entity ID, it's very unique. So you cannot have more than one ID for the same. So like, for example, in our demo here for the trees, every tree has its own specific ID. So when I go and load the follow-up form and see the IDs, it is very specific. It's very unique. So I cannot be able to confuse that with any other. I will just be able to search. But I think what you meant was in the IDs, just trying to have the one that you can select. Too many display on the screen. You mean like 1,000? You had 1,000 tree IDs. That would not be manageable. Oh, I mean, I know what you mean on the list. That one you can use so you can use the choice filter. When you use the choice filter, you can try that. Although I think my colleague Megan is saying she's tried the choice filter, but not the autocomplete appearance. We shall share the resources, the presentation and the forms that we have been able to look at, the ones that is building the form that creates the entities, the follow-up form that utilizes the entities, and also we will share also the update form, the one that you can use to update an entity property to an existing entity list. We're going to share the resources with you so that you can also use the same for future reference. Yes, please go ahead.
Hi.
Yes.
Yes.
Ademola, hi.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much for the presentation. I actually already dropped my question in the question and answer. But
Oh yeah, I see that.
my concern was within repeats, because I have this form that I've been thinking about. It has its regular questions, but within the question, we're trying to enumerate through a certain number of times for repeats. So I wanted to find out if there's a way, or like if there's a specific way, or if there's anything I need to be aware of in terms of using entities within getting the data from those repeats into entities. I don't know if you understand my question.
Yeah, I think it should work because when you're defining your questions in the repeat groups and you have in the registration form that is, and you have the save to column, provided you have specified the variable that is being saved as the responses from these repeat groups. So I think that should work. So I don't know if you mean like this variable is being entered as many times as possible, or you like in the registration form, probably you're asking a variable like the response is being repeated over time, and you want to have all these responses saved in the entity list. Is that what you're referring to?
Something like that. So the context is kind of like if we have a household, I'm trying to get the name of the head of household and just a few details. The repeats come in when they have a number of like a certain number of children. So if you have two children, it will drop a repeat so that you can get the names and ages of those children. So if a household has three children, you'd have three repeats to get the names and ages of those children. So I'm trying to get those entities, those answers rather into entities so that someone else could follow up on the children specifically.
Okay, so from this repeat group, you're capturing the number of children, there are three, and the ages and each of the ages of these three children. So it depends in your entities, what exactly do you want to capture? Do you want to capture the ages of these children? Do you want to capture the number of children in that household? That would be, like the difference. Yes, you're having this repeat just to capture these details. You've gone to a household, there are three children. So it is repeating three times so that you can capture more details of these children. So in your entity list, what entity properties do you want to save from these children? That would be the question.
Okay, so I'll say maybe just the names of the children and their ages, as well as the number of children inside the household.
So I think you'd have a property like the number of children. You'd have in the save to column, you'd save the number of children, the variable that you have used to reference the number of children in that household. For the name of each child, I'm not sure. Megan, what do you think?
Sorry, I was answering some of the other
Sorry,
questions.
sorry.
Do you mind repeating that again?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so it's okay. So he's gone to the household and the household has three children. So it is repeating three times so that he can capture the names of these children and the ages. So he wants, fine, saving the number of children is okay. That one can be an entity. But now he wants to save the names of each of these children. How can we incorporate that in the entity list?
I'll be honest, haven't tested this fully. That wasn't a use case.
Yeah,
As I'm
it's
sure you
tricky.
guys know, you guys sometimes push the bounds of what we've tested, but we would be happy to kind of take a look at that. Like if you did already test this and encountered issues, we would be happy to take a closer look. But what I would probably envision if it did work is you would use the save to column, and in the repeat group, you would just save those individual values that you would want. I'm not sure how that works because I'd have to go back
Yeah.
and look to see how our repeat groups work, because when you start using repeat groups, it can get a little sticky just
Mhm.
because it's um, the scenarios that we expect sometimes change a little bit.
Yeah, it's
So
okay.
we could definitely get back to you if that's possible.
Yeah, Davis, maybe if you don't mind, you could just send us maybe the use case or the form and maybe the details of how maybe you would envision how it would work. Then maybe we can also help in testing that. You can send that to our email, support@honor.io. I've just put it in the chat. And then maybe we could just, try and see how that would work, maybe on our end.
Okay, that sounds fine. That sounds perfect. I'll
Yeah, then we
definitely
can
try
test
to
that
send that.
use
Yeah.
case. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, no
Thank you
problem.
so much.
Yeah, you can just ask the form that you're probably working with, and maybe just a few details of how you'd want it to work out, and then also we can try also test on our end and see if it is a use case that is practical, and maybe
All
what we would
right.
recommend. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, thank
Andrew.
you. Just to confirm, I think it was typed in the Q&A that entities does not support repeats at the moment. So we couldn't use it for, say, a household survey where we have 4 children and would want to repeat. That wouldn't work. Is that correct?
We've said that is a use case we might want to test.
Oh, okay. And the
So that
related.
it's related. So we just confirm. He was also asking about the repeats. So that's a
Yeah,
use case we might need to test, and then we can, get back to you and confirm that yes, it is doable, or this is how to play it out.
thanks. And just to extend that a little bit, say if we're doing a household survey, we might have the household, which would be registered on the entity list. And then within a household, we might want to then interview different women of childbearing age. And then the third layer would be the children that belong to the women, which belong to the household. So has entities been tested for that sort of hierarchical structure, or would it only really work at the first level?
No, it can work because once you have the save to column, and as you move along your form, you define the variables that you're saving. So whatever you're saving as entity properties in your entity list, that is what is going to be saved. So if I go down and I am now at a point where I am capturing the children of the mother that I had interviewed before, it is the property that I saved that is going to come up. So this also works. Just depends on how you define in the save to column, the variables that you want to put in your entity list.
Okay, so you can have that save 2 columns for different levels within your hierarchy.
Yeah, because those are the yes, Megan, I think your hand is up.
Oh, I was just going to add to something else. Feel free to finish your statement, Andrew. Go ahead. I'll wait till you're done.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, you can. It just depends on the variables that you save in the save to column. Those are the entities that are going to be saved. So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yes,
I just
Abdullahi.
wanted to add, before Abdullahi goes, Andrew, just a note. If the repeat groups doesn't work, technically there is a workaround. You can kind of build groups in such a way that they work kind of like repeat groups, but it does require a lot of calculations and it makes your form very wide. So if that is something you are interested in and repeat groups do not work, that is also another way that you can pursue that. It's more of a workaround, but it would be possible.
Yeah, I guess just because at the moment we would manually create the lookup lists for the longitudinal follow-up. So it would be kind of balancing off trying to work out a new method to do that with entities. But no, thanks for that.
Abdullahi?
Yes, thank you so much. I have 2 questions regarding about deleting data as well as updating existing data. So the first one is that we have entities and we already have, for example, registered data. So how may we delete an existing data in the entities?
You mean deleting an entity in an entity list or deleting a record in the form registration?
Yeah, my question is that deleting the entities, only entity.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. So you mean like deleting. So when I come here to my entities, do you mean like deleting these records here?
Yes, this records, yes.
Yeah, you can do this in the table view where you can select 1 or 2 and then you delete the selected. You specify the name of the entity lists, and then you confirm the deletion. That is how you can delete that.
Okay, so this is okay, in the same form, if I need to update an existing property in the entity, shall I need to create new form or I just update it in here? Existing property. For example, now if I need to update the district or province or the species, for example, I need to update those. So I can update it in here.
Yes, you can update in here or you can use the update form. Let me check. that. So this update form, you can be able to update an existing entity list. So you're saying something like maybe you're adding a province, like in the existing list of provinces that you already had initially.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Not adding, and adding is already been clarified during the presentation. What I mean is that
Editing an existing one.
yeah, updating existing property. Yes.
I think you use the same form. You just come when you're specifying about updating an existing entity list. You can add something like the province that you want to add, for example, because from here we were having this when you're selecting a province, we had it here in our choices. So you're trying to say like maybe one of these I want to edit the spelling or something.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So this one, I think you use the update, the update form. You come and specify the province that you want, and you have to add it here to the save to column. So for example, you can use province, and then but you might need to select again. Megan, do we update the choice options in entity when updating entity lists? He's asking editing the spelling. Like for example, we have this, and maybe now Harari probably was misspelled, and we want to say Hararim. So he's asking about editing this existing option in our entity
So
list.
you can manually re-upload the form where you made the mistake, and you can go physically into the entity list and physically change it. The downside is you guys don't. Can you go back to where this is actually working, Jen? Yeah. Can you open the entity list?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, so if you click edit, you can go into the individual entities and edit it to the correct option. What you want to make sure though is that you select the name column value so that it aligns with the updated form.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to go in and edit both.
Okay. So we use the same editing that we
use
used
in
to.
the other. Yeah,
Yeah.
we use the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you go in and edit that feature and you update it in the same thing. So once the entity is saved, like you fill in the registration form and you save it as, if you don't have an update in that registration form, it's not going to update the entity. It only gets updated if in the entity choice, sorry, in that entity worksheet, you have an update to, I think it's update as. Otherwise, you can go in and manually do it. But those are the different options because you can have like a registration form that both saves and updates.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just a follow-up question. I'm sitting with Abdullahi. My name is Mohammed. For example, sometimes you may have 1,000, beneficiaries that you have already registered, and you wanted to follow up and just update one of the beneficiaries' phone number. They changed their phone number, so you wanted to update the phone number. So I think coming here and doing manually updating will be very difficult. So I think one of the things that we were expecting to have this entity is just having a follow-up update form where I can enter the ID or the name of the beneficiary, and then pull out the already registered information and just I edit the phone number rather than going manually. So that was actually the question we wanted to get clarification. I'm not sure if the entity is have that functionality to update existing registered information, updating or editing.
It's definitely possible. You just have to build the update feature into the registration form. Or you can, so there's two alternatives. You can have the registration form that does that initial registration, and then you have kind of an update form which updates the entity. Or you can also make sure that your registration form has the update, where you basically are updating the fields that you think would be important. And you define kind of what that looks like. We didn't cover that in too much detail, but we definitely have some other examples. And maybe what we could do to kind of further clarify this for everyone, because I've seen a couple of questions, is maybe put together an example of what a registration form where you might update specific fields might look like. That would give you a good starting point. Would that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thanks. One more question I have is that we have started by registration, and then during the registration, the entities has been created automatically. So, for example, if I delete the registration data, will it also delete the entity, or the registration and the entities are separate and they are not independent to each other? That's my question again.
No, the entities are related to the registration form, because you remember from the registration form, submissions coming in are what create the entities. So
Yes.
when you delete the registration form, it affects the entity list.
Okay, so it means that if I delete data in the registration, it also deletes the whatever in the entities.
Yes, because that is, you delete the entity list itself, because that is what was used to create it. So
Okay.
yeah, you have deleted it. So once you delete the registration form, and that was where it was created from, it also deletes it.
Okay, that's noted. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's all my questions. Thanks for the response.
No problem. No problem.
Just a quick one, Jen. I just want to clarify. So when you delete a single entry in a registration form, it does not delete the entity. You have to delete both like a single choice option and the entity. But if you delete the registration form, it will delete the entity list.
Yeah, the form will delete. Yeah, individual records will still remain.
Okay, that's my question. I was not talking about the entire form. I was only talking about, since we may have 100 records in the registration. If I go to the registration and delete one of the registration data, with it also delete it is correspondent to record in the entities. That was my question. So as you just clarified, you said that it will remain. Okay, then thanks.
If it is individual, that is different. Yeah, I think I referenced the entire form. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions? Abdullah, your hand is still up, or it was from earlier?
Sorry, it was from earlier. I will lower it down. Thanks.
No problem. All right. We are going to share the resources with you. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, and have yourselves a good day, afternoon, and a wonderful morning. Thank you so much.